Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters for Anfield Index. A win, something positive to talk about, 3 points, a clean sheet, Mo Salah's 250th goal, all at Anfield on Saturday night, and there is plenty to be positive about. However, there is a huge week and a lot of big games coming up before that international break to get into at the same time. I'm joined as ever by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And David, rumour has it that whilst I was enjoying a Chinese at the Hot Walk, lamb scouse was on the menu at Anfield reportedly.
That's right. Yeah, actually, yeah, they do go with the scouse sometimes. I actually went for the vegetarian chili. I'm trying to help out the environment from time to time, but yeah, it's not a bad effort this week. It's not always the best of food at Anfield, I have to say, even if that comes across as terrible because we get it for free. I do always appreciate it, but yeah, sometimes not always the best.
It was needed though, because it wasn't the warmest of nights at Anfield, but the football, I can't think of another word. Everything was just better, wasn't it? Atmosphere, control, performances, everything was just better on Saturday night.
Yeah, it was just kind of the kind of result and performance that you've been waiting for, really, is every aspect of the game. Liverpool looked stronger and better and more like their old selves, really, which was, I think the opposition maybe had something to do with that, but also I think Liverpool were better as well. And so, you put those two things together and you get a very good team and a good performance. And that's what Liverpool are. I know people are losing sight of that in a bad recent run, and I don't think that's over. I don't think they're out the woods yet. They've, some real tests to kind of prove themselves in. But, you can forget too easily that this is a good collection of players that, I think that the floor for this side is probably third place in the Premier League. So, even with all the issues that we've seen this season. And so, I think some of the criticism has, maybe been a bit over the top, calling for players' heads, calling for the managers to go, all those sorts of things. It was a good reminder that there's a really good football team in there as well.
Yeah, no doubts about it. There was so much to like. And as well, the one thing, because we talked about basketball games in recent times, there was more control, it felt, in this one to what they were doing. I know there was maybe sliding door moments when Morgan Rogers hits the post, but largely there was just more control.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a couple of moments where Villa get in behind Liverpool's midfield that make you feel uncomfortable. But, the fact is that's been happening way too regularly in recent games. And so to kind of limit that, and you're probably never in matches as well. Let's not forget, this happened last season as well. You're never probably going to completely limit that to the point it never happens, particularly with the way that Liverpool, they try and play in an expansive way. So you're going to leave yourself open to that sometimes, but it was a lot less than we'd seen recently. And, even the fact that, Villa go close a couple of times, I don't think they were particularly worrying situations. I mean, they hit the post twice and you might think, oh, well, Liverpool have just got lucky this time rather than kind of unlucky in other games or whatever. But the fact is, Morgan Rogers hits the post from quite far out. If he scores there, you've kind of got to say it's a really good finish. The one that Cash gets pushed onto the woodwork, doesn't it? It's a great save, but huge deflection. And again, would have been fortunate. And kind of, what Liverpool did that was really good, they were limiting Villa to those efforts from the edge of the box, from places where if they score, you almost got to hold your hands up. And of course, they almost did, but it really would have felt like, oh my God, how poor is Liverpool's look at the moment, because they were limiting them. And I think, Villa, that's the two closest efforts they have in the entire game. And I think they end that half with 0.15 expected goals. So that shows you Liverpool were limiting them. And, I had a Villa fan kind of tweeting me saying, it was really close. We could have scored. And that is true. Of course, you could score. But the name of the game with Liverpool, the name of the game with any football team is create as many good opportunities as you can yourself and limit the opposition. And the fact is, you can't always control that. Sometimes the Cash goal will go in. Sometimes the Rodgers shot will go in. But if you do that consistently and you have a certain amount of expected goals ahead of your opposition, and you manage games in that way, you will win more than you lose, and you will put yourself in contention for trophies. That's all a manager and a team can do, is say, if we do this process and we give ourselves this foundation. We give ourselves a chance to win. And so that's what I really liked about it, is they gave themselves the foundation to win. They didn't leave anything to luck. They didn't kind of create 2.5 expected goals, but also concede 2.5 expected goals. So it's a coin flip whether you win or not. The process was really, really good. And so in that sense, it was a really deserved win, and one that you could kind of get behind more than if they just kind of fluked it in some way. Because I think, the thing you had to see in this was a better process, a really good kind of a win that was fully deserved. And I think this was definitely that.
Yeah, it was totally deserved. And I think people who played the part in that will talk about players, but the crowd was good on Saturday, and maybe it's the bonus of Anfield under the lights, a full day on the ale and things like that. But the crowd was alive for this one, weren't they?
Yeah, I think like we said before, the Saturday 8 p.m.s always help because everyone's had a bit more of a drink or whatever, and they kind of feel like those big events at the end of the night. But also, I think there was a feeling at Anfield as well that we've barely been at home recently. So, that's people are missing it. And then, everyone felt like they turned up with a kind of job to do, which was to really get behind the players in a difficult moment, because it has been that. And so, I thought the crowd really did the job, and it was a great atmosphere. The Villa last year, the 8 p.m. Saturday was really good as well. And, kind of good to get back to that. Players responded, players gave them something to get behind as well. And, when they work together like that, the crowd and the players, then Anfield's a really difficult place to go.
It is. And it's weird because Villa before this had won 4 on the spin. They'd be the opposite form from Liverpool. But is it weird to say that actually Emery having those tactics of we'll take Liverpool on in a football game, it wasn't like set piece, long balls, which has kind of been the blueprint recently, that maybe helped us in a weird way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was kind of nice and refreshing for Liverpool to come up against a side that was looking to play football rather than just kind of hoof it forward. And the fact is, that's not a criticism of the teams they've played before, because it's clearly the sensible thing to do, because Villa got absolutely picked off and couldn't really get a foothold in the game, and everybody else has had joy against Liverpool. So it seemed kind of unwise for Villa not to go a bit more direct. And you can kind of see that in the numbers, actually. I had a quick look this morning, and it's the 3rd lowest amount of long balls Liverpool have faced this season. The ones below it are Eintracht Frankfurt and Burnley. And that was for long passes attempted. I mean, Burnley couldn't really touch the ball, so it's not a surprise they were low. But but Villa had some of the ball and couldn't really make it work. I did like in the moments they did go direct. I thought Liverpool dealt with it really well, to be fair, and I thought the defending of set pieces was very good. So that was encouraging. The few long throws in there that Liverpool did really well on as well. So they did deal with it. But of course, I think Villa might have regrets that they didn't try it a little bit more, because maybe they'd have got more joy, because I thought they got kind of stamped out of the game, really, and pretty much controlled by Liverpool.
Yeah, especially the later it went on, almost post the 2-0. I wouldn't say it petered out into nothing, but there wasn't too much happening, which suited us very well at the same time. And is it... Go on.
Sorry, just to come in on that, because it's a really good point, is that probably was my favourite part of the game, is that at 2-0, nothing happens.
Nothing.
I mean, there's so much to be said for that. Liverpool was so good at doing that last season. I think even second half, it ends kind of 0.35-ish expected goals each. It's so dull, which when you're the side who's 2-0 up from around an hour mark is absolutely fantastic. And, Villa tried to push late on, but he just couldn't really make anything happen, couldn't really get any quality shots off. And you look at their shot map at the end of the game, and it's, not very attractive at all. And great to see Liverpool going back to being able to do that, because they haven't recently.
And I know you'll have heard about it, because I know you mentioned it in the video. Dan Kennett on our Under Pressure, he always talks about that garbage time. It's good just to win games like this, manage it, rest the legs, have nothing happened. Everyone will take a 2-0 all day long. And it's right to talk about a few players, because there's been some under the microscope more than others. And understandably, at the same time, it's been such a poor season for Alexis Mac Allister, and the standards we hold him as the best midfielder in the Premier League last season. But maybe not full pomp, but look back to Alexis Mac Allister somewhat, didn't he, on Saturday?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, easily his best performance of the season so far, which is a pretty low bar, really, considering that he's just been miles off it, hasn't he? But this is the thing, this is what's difficult for managers. It's so easy to kind of say, isn't it? And I've said it myself. You've got to get him out of the team for a sustained period. You can't, but you've got to be able to judge them when to bring him back in, because the longer you leave him out, the further you are away from this happening, which is that he just turns and it happens. And it's so hard to judge that. It's kind of like alchemy, isn't it? It's a real, you never know when that is coming. But it finally kind of came, and and I just thought he was excellent. He just gives you so much on both sides of the ball. He really is kind of just a man who knits everything together, and Liverpool have really missed that this season. And he just provided everything they kind of needed to give them a perfect blend in that midfield. And so hopefully this is the sign that he is fully back now, and we can see repeated performances like this, because he's just utterly crucial when he's on it like that.
It is crucial. That's the right word. If it's that consistency, we can keep seeing this week in, week out, things will start to turn, no two ways about it. And I suppose one player, I don't know if we're just coming to expect this again. I felt gutted for him that the Ekitike header was offside, because the ball in was sensational. Dominic Szoboszlai was the official man of the match again. He's just at such a level every week. We expect it almost now, don't we?
Yeah, without question, Liverpool's best player so far this season, and just the consistency levels are just there now. He just looks like a man who's been in the Premier League now for a couple of years and kind of completely understands what the job is. He's showing all aspects of his quality. I think he's in a position now where if he can take up those deeper positions from time to time as well, they allow him to do that a bit more, even when he's at the kind of the top of the thing, at the top of the midfield. That he can. There's a real rotation there now, so he can get in deep areas and show that he can fire the ball in, and then he can get forward and show little cute exchanges, and the fact he can be back and forth as well, because he's just unbelievable levels of energy. Really, really good again, and unfortunate not to get an assist, but I mean, just everything he adds. I described him and compared him to last season. I think I wrote this piece about. He very much reminds me of kind of Firmino in this team, in that Firmino always used to give you an extra man on both sides of the ball. He'd kind of be the late arriver when you were on the attack, and then he'd be the guy who was coming in to give you an extra man in midfield. And Szoboszlai just feels like that. He's just everywhere. And so, exactly what we saw from him against Villa. And he's just undroppable, isn't he? You cannot take him out of this team at the moment. He's the heartbeat, which is it's an interesting one, because I think a few people maybe thought he'd be the one to be sacrificed when Florian Wirtz come in. Well, I'm sure there's more to come from Wirtz, but even when that happens, I really don't think you can take Szoboszlai out.
You can't. It was even late on when we were on the break, and then he's joining the attack as one of the attackers and sprint straight back in, and that's late in the game. It just literally is our most important player right now, undroppable. But in terms of important players, Arne Slot mentioned this afterwards, and I love this quote about Salah. Mo scoring is not a surprise to anyone, but he was also strong in holding the ball up and helping the team out. This is the Mo we all want to see. And it maybe is too strong, but it just felt like bullying Lucas Digne, everything that he did. It felt a little bit like Mo Salah was back, shall we say, on Saturday with everything we've been discussing.
Yeah, and again, kind of similar to McAllister. How do you judge this? It would have been so easy. I mean, even after the Brentford game, so his last game's Brentford, he scores a brilliant goal. There's still a really strong case to drop him for this game, because I thought he was atrocious at Brentford, to be honest. But that's what makes the manager's job so difficult, and why he deserves a bit more understanding, because it's so clear. Why would you? It's so easy to say from the sidelines, drop a guy who gave you 50 goal contributions last season because he's not playing well at the moment. But when do you judge to put him back in then? How do you pick that out? Because how do you pick that moment? Because what's going to happen, and this is form, you never know when it's going to turn. And it turned pretty dramatically against Villa. I thought, the goal was kind of gifted to him, but every other aspect of his performance was absolutely fantastic. And who could have seen that coming after Brentford? I personally didn't. So, it's very, very difficult to judge. but really good and encouraging that he seemed to be back to his best. And like McAllister, he's so crucial to this team. So you just hope that they can keep it up, and this is a real turning point for them, because they've both been below their standards recently, but this was a real step in the right direction.
Really was. I mean, that's 2-2 for Salah, and it's 250 for Liverpool, which is insane. But it was probably noticeable, you can see it in the stadium, and probably people at home as well, that Salah tended to be the outball when there was nothing on for Marmadashvili or like the defenders. They were literally pinging it to Salah, who pinned Dina, wasn't he, and holding it. He was the outball on Saturday.
Yeah, that was actually interesting, because you kind of thought, some of them, the diagonals as well, they were hitting it when Dina was close. And you're usually thinking a lot of the fullbacks they've come up against recently would just kind of muller Salah in the air, but he was kind of using his strength to back in, taking a really nice touch, and that happened an awful lot. And then Liverpool were up the pitch, really. And it was kind of, it's nice to see kind of another form of build-up there as well, because I think, sometimes Liverpool have had trouble in that. I actually think that's been getting better week on week if people have kind of been watching closely. I think build-up has been, there's been aspects of build-up that have been improving massively, but this was kind of another string to the bow, is just hitting a long diagonal in Salah's direction and going from there, and it really, really worked for them. So be interesting to see if they keep that up, whether they kind of take it on a case-by-case basis against, depends what kind of fullback he's up against. But it definitely worked for them, and it helped that he was able to, bring the ball down so brilliantly and then find other players around him.
Well, yeah, it's just a conduit for everything that was good on Saturday. If McAllister and Salah can just keep to that level, things will turn very quickly. I suppose you mentioned it earlier, because it's good. It's a good result. It's a clean sheet. There's loads of positives from this. There was still a few times that Villa did just waltz through our midfield, didn't they? Even like committing too many on the break. There was just still a few things you thought we need to tighten up still.
Yeah, a couple of moments where I think the manager will feel that kind of, I saw him talking from the sidelines a moment after Villa had kind of got in at the midfield about, talking amongst yourselves, who's going, who's staying. Let's just kind of keep the communication going. So it's not absolutely perfect, but of course, it was never perfect last season either, by the way. But what Liverpool did is, when they got played through, is they got back in and they got numbers behind the ball, and that was something that they did to a decent level in this game. So they've just got to kind of keep that up, and of course, limit the ability of the opposition to play through them, but just make sure if that happens that you're getting bodies in front of the ball, and if you do that, then you're not going to concede too many chances. Which, of course, even when Liverpool did get played through, they didn't concede very many chances at all.
They really didn't. And yeah, a few more performances, a few more results, maybe more importantly, like that, and things will start look a lot rosier. So a lot to like from Saturday. I suppose in terms of the off the field news or the other talking points, you've no doubt that people, I kind of questioned it a little bit. Florian Wirtz is a mission, having not played in midweek in the Carabao at all. And were you surprised he was out the lineup for this one?
Yeah, I guess maybe surprised, because I didn't know McAllister was about to drop that performance, and you could have made an argument he should have been in ahead of him, but not totally stunned. I mean, some of the reaction kind of when and I see this when I tweet the team news myself or whatever, it kind of gets talked about like he's playing out of his skin at the moment, and I don't think that's true at all. I think we've seen flashes. I don't think he's been disastrous in the way that some people are characterizing, but I also don't think he demands starts by any means. And so I wasn't absolutely stunned that he wasn't in. And I think that, the ends justified the means as well, in that Liverpool played well and deserved to win the game in the end. So, and then he came on and didn't think he did too much when he was on the pitch. So, I don't think it was one to be absolutely stunned by. And like I say, I think the manager kind of was justified in that selection, because everything kind of went well, and then Wirtz came on and wasn't sensational. So I think it was the right call, to be honest.
I suppose the only thing I thought when he came on, he's about 75 minutes, so it's late. The game was kind of petering out to nothing. But just for him as well, he came on and he almost played a false nine, didn't he, in a box midfield? And that's to go with the 10 role. He's been in the double pivot. He's played a game on the left as well. I'm just wondering, what is the plan, do you think, to help him settle? Because he's playing in all different positions, different setups. It just doesn't feel like they're helping his confidence a little bit as well.
No, that's probably true. But the fact is that the manager's job is, he's got to play some role in Wirtz adapting. But the fact is, he's been given a lot of opportunities in his favoured position, primarily in that, he played in midfield against Brentford, and I don't think he did enough to kind of make you think, oh, he absolutely has to be in the team here. So, and he's played a lot of games in central midfield, and it's not kind of worked for him. So, at some point, the onus has got to be on him to play well. And the manager's got to pick a team that's going to win games and win games well. And that happened at the weekend. So, people can get angry about him not being in the side, but, it's a bit of give and take. And the manager's given him a lot of opportunities that he hasn't taken yet. And this isn't me saying he's rubbish, by the way, or, I think he'll be absolutely fine in the long term. But Liverpool have got to start winning games. And I don't think they're as good with Florian Wirtz in his preferred position at the moment. I think his best way into the team at the moment, for me, is probably that left-hand side, but he's probably not doing enough to displace Gakpo at the moment. So, until he does, the manager's going to be justified in that. And I know everybody's saying, you want this expensive player in the team. What was the plan for him? Well, the plan was for him to play in central midfield, but he has to justify it with his performances, and he isn't at the moment. So, I don't think anybody's writing him off at Liverpool. I think it's, okay, we need to get him there. And it's going to take time, but they've got to dip him in and out in the meantime, because they can't keep losing games, and they're losing games at the moment. So, if you've got someone who's not hitting the level and not doing what you need them to do, it's best to not have them in the team, I'd say. And this it's not comparable to kind of Salah and McAllister, who have done it for you in this league. It's kind of on its own, isn't it? It's a separate situation. So, because it's all about the adaptation. So, he'll definitely get starts in the coming games. He may even start the next one.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see where that is and why that call is made and the various things that go into it. Because, at the moment, I don't think it's kind of a shock or a disgrace that he's not in the team, really. I think he's got to kind of do more to justify his place and keep battling and keep working to adapt to this Premier League pace as well.
Hope he gets up to speed, more opportunities very quickly. And a player, I know you've been a passionate defender of Milos Kerkez. Robbo was back in, and I think it's fair to say, it's not saying he's a better player, Robbo, than Kerkez by any means, but the team looked better with Robbo there, it seemed.
Yeah, progression looked better, didn't it? We've said again that Robertson's definitely better at doing those sorts of things, and so it's no surprise. And I thought defensively he wasn't troubled at all, which was nice and helped things out. Again, I don't think defensively has been Kerkez's massive issue. It's everything else in terms of what he's doing with the ball at his feet, and Robertson is definitely more comfortable in that regard. You hope with Kerkez that will improve and settle down as he gets a bit more comfortable, and Liverpool kind of learn to use him. But at the moment, Robertson, I said he had to really come in for this game. I don't think you could follow up what Kerkez did with Brentford and keep him in the side. And again, it's not like Salah where he delivers, and if you give him the platform to do it, he does. Kerkez is adapting. He's getting used to playing for Liverpool. He's getting used to the expectations around that. So he can be justified in basically just dropping him on form. So, I thought Robertson brought a balance there. It's going to be interesting, though. What does he do? 3 games in a week here. Manchester City away coming up. Real Madrid obviously on tomorrow. How does he go about that one? It's a fascinating one, because I don't think, can Robertson do all 3? Maybe not. And then you maybe have to use Kerkez in one, and which one's the best one to use him in? I'm not really sure. But I'm sure we'll see a little bit of him. But it's a little bit of a reminder to him that you've got to start putting the performances in now. You've got to start looking a little bit more like you're comfortable with the ball at your feet. Otherwise, Robertson's there to take your place back.
It was interesting that we wanted a win. We just needed it with everything that's coming up. But as much as he could, Arne Slot went back to last season's tried and tested, didn't he? And the 3 in midfield, so Bosline, McAllister, Gravenberch. Yeah, Marmadashvili plays, but that's because Alisson's injured. He wouldn't otherwise. Hugo Ekitike is his only fit and recognised striker. So the other, newer signings that are available are on the bench. Is that what you're expecting to happen until now and the end of the year? We might just have to get used to Kerkez Wirtz being dipped in and out, as you said, that way.
Yeah, I wonder if he has any regrets about trying to change things too quickly, because he was so able to do that at Feyenoord. He would embed kind of 10, 11 signings in a season and still go, excuse me, still go and win the league, and yet he's not been able to do that because the Premier League's just too good. And any small weakness you show in terms of not using a player in a particular way that he would like, having someone adapt into the league. If you just can't carry anyone in this league. You've got to be absolutely 100% to win them. And we saw that against Aston Villa. It's like, as soon as everybody was on it, Liverpool looked controlled and great. But you carry one player there, you concede a goal, and everything changes. So you just can't afford to do that. So maybe tried and tested is the way to go for now, and then start to ease these players in around the turn of the year, hopefully. But there's still, like I say, there's still going to be games before then. I mean, Kerkez could even come in on Tuesday. You could see Wirtz used off the left-hand side on Tuesday. Any of these things could happen. But I think he's going to go more slowly now in terms of pushing these players in, because I think it was just too chaotic, and I think it's led to some of Liverpool's problems.
Yeah, we might have to get used to that, as you said, the tried and tested. And speaking of tried and tested, this is the exact opposite. Calvin Ramsey looked so good on Wednesday. I know we lost 3-0 and it was, a weakened team, but he showed real promise. And Rob Page, the under-21 manager, saying, we're looking at options there for the next steps for Calvin Ramsey. People are going to be asking, shouldn't the next steps be into the first team setup at least? Because a right back that could pass it forward, progress it 2-footed, surely that's what we're asking for right now.
But I mean, let's kind of calm down a bit about, I thought he was really good against Crystal Palace, and it was a really good performance. But we have to remember he's kind of struggled with low moves that he's had recently. He's barely played, and when he has played, hasn't impressed at all. And coming into that Liverpool team where standards were on the floor at the very moment he came in, and it was a mixed team, and he did stand out, and I thought he did well. But look, if he was kind of Liverpool level at the moment, then he would be in and around the first team already. And I just don't think he's kind of close to that. I think people are getting a little bit carried away with his performance level, as I say, because he's struggled in several loans that he's had. I don't think he's the answer to any of Liverpool's problems, really. And he's not a better player than Conor Bradley or Jeremy Frimpong, and Liverpool recognise that. So I think that the best thing for him is to get that loan move, and hopefully he can kind of start rebuilding his career, because it's been a bit of a torrid time for him since he's joined Liverpool.
It has been horrendous, which would be good for him just to be playing football either way. And I mean, he's not going to be till the turn of the year. I did want to ask you this, because the Christmas period in the fixtures, there's this big separation now, isn't there? It's the 27th, then all the way to New Year's Day. Football on Boxing Day. Boxing Day football is usually about having like after eights or chocolate orange for your breakfast, having some more booze, and just watching football all day. It's wrong not to have a packed Boxing Day schedule, isn't it?
No, actually, Dave, I think you'll find that for a guy who has to work on Boxing Day, I think it's fantastic news. So I'm absolutely delighted about it, to be honest. I mean, or the best alternative actually is a completely full football calendar on the 26th, and Liverpool don't play, and so I don't have to sit in Anfield absolutely freezing. That would be the dream. So it's kind of an unfortunate one, isn't it? Because it's Christmas on a Thursday this year. I think I'm right in saying so. That's the reason, because obviously the weekend's coming then, so it's just kind of landed in a funny way. But like I say, for someone who works in football, not absolutely devastated about that, and a bit of time with the family, and that never goes amiss over that period. So, but I totally understand why people are unhappy about it. But I do think it's a quirk of this year, and I think it will go back to next year to be in a kind of packed out calendar, because it will be the kind of Saturday will be the Boxing Day, won't it? Next time, so that will be we'll be back to that. And no doubt I'll be sat in Anfield, and everyone will be happy, and I'll be cold and hungover.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes, but I don't think we're going to agree on that one. So we'll move on nicely. And there's plenty of links, or it isn't a million miles until the January transfer window. And because we were playing Villa, I wanted to ask you about this one. That obligation that Villa have got for Harvey Elliott, it's triggered its 10 appearances. only played 5 so far and not been in the squad since September. I mean, obviously, you couldn't have played in this one, but you're just starting to question what's going to happen with this obligation, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, it's a long season for that not to be kind of triggered, and you worry about Harvey Elliott. If they're going to sit on that and not trigger it, then he's going to lose a season to not playing, and that will be tragic, really. So I really hope that that's not the case, and he's just kind of settling in and working his way in. But yeah, it's a bit of a worry because he's a bit off it now. He doesn't seem to be being in the squads recently, albeit, of course, he couldn't have been at Anfield at the weekend. Yeah. But I hope he if it is the case the manager doesn't fancy him at the moment, I hope he goes on and proves him wrong, because I think there's a very, very good footballer in there, and it didn't, it did work out for him at Liverpool. He did really well. He won multiple trophies and played a big role in them, but he didn't kind of mark himself out as a long-term superstar at Liverpool. But I think there's definitely a quality player there. So I hope things turn for him a bit.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, it would just be good for him and his future alone, especially if we want that 35 million quid in the bank as well. And I mean, links, there's a few starting to do the rounds because, of course, January is close. One that seems to be mentioned by a few, and I'm probably butchering his name here, but I think it's pronounced Joel Aldoins, the Bruges Ecuadorian centre-half, quite young. Heard anything in that one at all?
Yeah, he's definitely been watched by Liverpool, 100%. But I always say this is kind of true of so many players, but he's in that kind of youngish centre halves that they've been keeping an eye on. Now, whether because they've signed Leone, they're maybe not in that market anymore, I'm not really sure. Obviously, it's kind of an interesting one with Leone because of the situation he's ended up with. But they're definitely keeping an eye on him. But I just wonder whether, if Liverpool are to sign another centre half now, it probably would. I'm not massively expecting them to do something in January, but we'll kind of see on that. But the next centre half they sign, is it going to be someone who's 21, who's coming from a kind of weaker league, or is it probably going to be someone a bit more kind of established, like a Gay, like a Schlotterbeck, someone like that? I would lean more towards that than thinking they're in this market for a young centre half anymore, because they've got Leone. Very, very unfortunate what's happened to him, but you see so many players come back from ACLs and get right back to it these days because this the rehab is so good to be in the market for him anymore.
Will be interesting to see, yeah, and especially if anything does get done in January, not too long to wait till things ramp up on that one. And I suppose the only other thing I wanted to ask you about off the field is he had his press conference on Friday, and Arne Slot was saying 99.99 that Curtis Jones and Isak weren't going to be in the squad, and they weren't. We've got open training in about 45 minutes or so. I think it's live on LFC TV. Any expectation anyone else can make it back for this week at all?
I really hope so. It'd be a really nice boost, wouldn't it? I said previously that kind of even just to get Isak back, I think. I mean, Curtis has been fantastic recently, and you want him back ASAP, but I think Isak is a kind of game changer off the bench. Someone who can score goals will be pretty handy. So hopefully, but it'd be great to have either of them back. But we'll, the fact he said that was kind of he left that little 0.1%, didn't he, open for them for the Villa game? Does that mean that they've got a chance then for Real Madrid? I'm not entirely sure, but I guess the problem is it's kind of Saturday to Tuesday is not very long. So how much have they been able to fit in? Is it more realistic for them for the weekend? Again, that would be a big boost, but we'll have to wait and see for that open training session. But fingers crossed on that one, because the squad's looking a little thin at the moment, and a few options off the bench would really help.
Yeah, especially just a bit of rotation any minute, something like that. Fingers crossed, but maybe not too much hope. And I suppose in terms of everything that's going on this week, it's just absolutely massive tomorrow night, and the games are coming thick and fast. Now, as much as we can talk about the game itself, a lot of the things around the game are worth talking about. I mean, first of all, we mentioned the stadium. Anfield will be electric for this one, won't it?
Yeah, I'd hope so. I thought it was really good on Saturday night, and also, Real Madrid coming to Anfield, and it was so good to get one over on them finally last season. But you want to do it again, and this is a kind of real measure, and also Liverpool kind of, they lost that Galatasaray game, so it puts you a little bit on the back foot. So you kind of keep, you got to keep picking up the points and keep winning. So And I think it would just make everyone feel a little bit better about where this side is going. Just to back up that Villa win with a big win over Real Madrid as well. So hopefully they're going to do that. And I think, like you say, the atmosphere is going to be pretty good as well, as it always is on a Champions League night.
Should be, zero doubts about that one. And there's things we can talk about, but actually in terms of players, I mean, people will look at Xabi Alonso's return and what that means. There's a certain right back coming on a Tuesday night, and I know you've watched that Amazon Prime interview that he did, and it's an interesting one. What did you make of the actual interview itself, what he talked about?
To be fair, I haven't watched the full interview. I just saw that bit about the barber, which made me feel a little bit queasy, if I'm honest. And I know that's partly kind of modern football, but I wouldn't have signed that off if I was anything to do with Trent. It just comes off absolutely dreadfully, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one that he's coming straight back, isn't it? He is, by all accounts, fit as well now, so he's going to be back in the squad. And yeah, it's I think he's not going to get a great reception, if I'm honest. No. But to be honest, my thinking is, there might have been a bit of debate about how he gets a send off and whether you boo him there when he's a Liverpool player and all those kind of aspects. But when he comes back to Anfield, I mean, there shouldn't be any expectation he gets a warm reception. He's not a Liverpool player. He's turning up to harm Liverpool's chances of winning the Champions League and winning a football game. They should go absolutely crazy at him as they do any other player. And I mean, one of my favourite moments actually in Anfield in recent years was kind of the poor reception that Luis Suarez got when he returned with Barcelona, because that is how it should be. And I think particularly that's how it should be with Suarez, by the way, because I think the legend he's got in Liverpool for someone who was part of not a great side and only ended up winning a League Cup and then dragged the greatest figure in the club's history's name through the mud. I don't think he should be as kind of warmly received as he is by supporters, albeit I'm just going off on a tangent here in my little soapbox. But, I think anybody who comes back to kind of actively harm Liverpool's chances of winning trophies should be treated with contempt, to be honest. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, like every other Real Madrid player, is amongst that number now. So, I don't think he should be getting cheered onto the pitch or anything like that. He should be getting booed from minute one, as should any player in white on Tuesday night.
Yeah, it's weird. And obviously people suggesting it might be Valverde will start. So we'll have to see if Trent does get put into this one by Alonso. But even in that Amazon Prime interview, I don't know who the presenter was, but she specifically said, I'm sure you'll get the reception you're deserving of and Liverpool fans will want to give you. Even when the leaving was happening, we were being told a lot about how we should react to this. And the media just seem a little bit, I know it's your profession, but just tone deaf on this a little bit.
Well, he will get the reception he deserves, won't he? Which is roundly booed. So maybe she meant that. That is true. He will get the reception he deserves, and that is one that recognises that he didn't want to be part of this anymore. And the whole West Ham celebration, I think, still really sticks in the craw around this. I think the kind of shock that everyone wasn't particularly happy about it. The fact that he was the local lad who was supposed to be the captain and he left anyway. I think he will get the reception he deserves. And I think Liverpool fans are going to absolutely go for it. It'd be interesting to see because, as is pointed out in the comments there, Valverde probably will start at right back, but do you bring him on late in the game, particularly if Real Madrid are hopefully chasing it? It'll be so fascinating, but I don't think it would help Real Madrid to get him on the pitch because I think it will seriously crank up the atmosphere even more than it will already be. So it's an interesting one, and I think anybody who's trying to say that Liverpool should give him a warm reception is completely misjudging this.
Yeah, it will be fascinating to see if he does start. And on the surface, it's easy to look and go, Real Madrid are 5 points clear in La Liga. They've only conceded 10 goals. Alonso sort of, God, no, it's no Galacticos. It's the best team and what I think will be. And so people will look, this is such a hard game. There's no escaping it. But as maybe Villa proved, does it suit us more in a way that it's a team that's going to try and play football against us rather than route one, set piece and play the second balls?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no question about that whatsoever. I think, they'll give Liverpool opportunities to press and get in the faces and really get the atmosphere going. So that's helpful. rather than facing kind of constant flick-ons and trying to challenge for second balls. So that's helpful. The only problem is that these will play football, but they're also really, really good at it. I mean, they've lost once all season and won every single other game that they've played. So they've got a great manager in Xabi Alonso and a great squad as well. So, yeah, really, really difficult one. And I think a trickier test than Liverpool were facing last season. And this is not a Liverpool that are as good as they were last season at the moment either. So it's going to be really difficult. But they're going to need the fans behind. They're going to need that atmosphere to kind of turn things. Probably need a little bit of fortune at times as well. But also to take the chances. So it's going to have to be a really good performance, I think.
It's interesting, as Nikolai said there, they did have that 5-2 defeat in the derby, so something like that would be massively appreciated. But even just because we still want to see like the best players come to Anfield, there's threats in that people say Vinicius, although he's obviously had the apology at the weekend, Jude Bellingham, as we mentioned there. Everyone's talking about Erling Haaland right now in the Premier League. People are also mentioning that Kylian Mbappe's got 18 goals in 14 games and got 5 Champions League goals in 3 games. Probably these are the 2 players that are really in form in world football at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, quite scary, to be honest. Yeah, just, I mean, with Mbappe at the moment, the way he's playing is kind of, it's one way you almost can't stop him. You just need kind of, you have a really, really good game against him and hope that the one chance he maybe gets, he kind of fluffs, and that's how you've got to kind of think about it, not get too kind of panicky if he does get in behind you from time to time, because some players are just not to be stopped. You can't stop them for 90 minutes. You just hope that the moments where they do get at you, they don't do anything with it, and that's rare. But it's going to be a difficult one. But that's why it's just got to be a really good team performance from front to back as well, and everybody helping each other out. And like I say, I just think the atmosphere has got to be massive. This is just as good a team as you're going to face all season, really. And Liverpool are just going to have to be massively, massively on it and get it right on and off the pitch, really, to come out with a win here. But it is Anfield, and we shouldn't be too scared. We shouldn't think that all the results Liverpool had recently are this is exactly what Liverpool are. They can be better than that. They will be better than that. And if they turn up and they put in the best performance, then they can absolutely match and beat Real Madrid. I don't doubt that for a second, but it needs everyone to kind of come together, really.
Does, yeah. Every player, but all the fans will do their bit at the same time. And I suppose in terms of the players, this might be hard to read because some will be saying, well, you won on 2-0 on Saturday, so just put out the same team, have that stability. But as you mentioned, Florian Wirtz coming back in, the Kerkez situation. Are we expecting any rotation for this one?
I would usually kind of say rotation is a decent shout in certain positions, but I don't see how, I'm very much kind of in favour of going with the same team for this one, if I'm completely honest. I think, you can ask them to do 2 games back to back. I think that the way that midfield looks so solid and worked well, Salah in form, I thought the attack functioned pretty well and they were creating chances and the defence looked pretty settled. And I don't always buy into that situation of kind of you have to go with the same tactics and the same team, or, if you change things, it might go wrong. And you do have to make results on a game-by-game basis. But I think this setup works for Real Madrid. It worked against Aston Villa. They were going to play in a similar way, try and play out from the back. It's just a setup that's working at the moment. It's more familiar to kind of what they did last season when they beat Real Madrid. I just see no reason to make changes unless kind of Robertson will feel the intensity and you feel you have to change at left back, or if he does want to get Wirtz in some way, then for me has to be on the left-hand side, nowhere else. But they're the only 2 changes I can make any case for, and I would not be disappointed at all to see the same 11 named.
I was just going to ask you, because I did think Wirtz, obviously, he played him in Frankfurt. Does he want to play him in Europe more, where it's not as intense, for want of a better phrase? On the left-hand side, I mean, we didn't really mention this, but Saturday, how many times did Cody Gakpo just cut in and blam it or not happen? Do you think that is one that seems to be picking up traction from a lot of people, doesn't it? That Wirtz could have some minutes, especially in Europe, maybe this one on the left.
I just think it's the best position for him at the moment, because I think you've got to keep your midfield solid in the Premier League in particular. I mean, maybe you can get away more within the Champions League is starting him in that central role, Florian Wirtz. But I just think it's a good way of getting him in the team at the moment. You know, so many of his touches for Bayer Leverkusen started out on that left-hand side. Yeah. So very familiar with it. You know, I don't think even when Gakpo's been scoring, he's been playing absolutely unbelievably well. You know, someone's saying there Wirtz versus Valverde will be eaten alive, but he won't be anywhere near Valverde, because the point is that he's going to be drifting into central areas, and whoever the left back is, be that Kerkez or Robertson, will then take on that space, and Valverde can't come inside with him, because if you leave Liverpool's left backs, they can, you know, I know Kerkez hasn't been fantastic, but he can cross a ball from that spot. Robertson very dangerous if he gets in behind as well. So you know, the idea is to use him there and almost turn it into a box midfield at times, and your width then coming from your fullback. So that's kind of why I want him there. And, you know, I don't think Gakpo's been playing out of this world. So I think there's a case there. And if you really want to get Wirtz and you want to help get him settled, that left-hand side is the one for me. And maybe this will be a game where it worked for him. And as I say, you can create that box midfield. That helps you outnumber Real Madrid in certain situations as well, keep the pressure on. And he's a good presser as well, probably a better presser than Cody Gakpo. So, that's where I wouldn't mind seeing a change there, albeit, you know, if he goes the same 11, I'm pretty happy with that as well.
And for this game, because it was great we got the win, we needed to stop the rot, break that, you know, the chain that was going there. Would Arne Slot, do you think, if you asked him truthfully, take a point in this one to try and stop? Because if we beat Villa and then you lose in this one, but, you know, people still talk about the run of results. You worry, does it dent confidence? Do you think he would take a point in this one and build on it?
Yeah, he probably would, to be honest, because I think, like you say, it stops you kind of, you know, it's not adding another defeat to that column. Yeah. It's not a bad result in terms of, it's, you know, it's one of your hardest games that you've got in the Champions League. So, you know, and it keeps you in a decent position. And then, of course, you know, after that, you know, well, I think is the next... Yeah, it's PSV at home, so you'd think you'd win that. Then, of course, you've got to go to Inter, which is going to be difficult. But there are other games the other side of that would feel a little bit more winnable. So I don't think a point would be the absolute worst. But I just think Liverpool are capable of beating Real Madrid at Anfield, and they should always feel that way. So you know, I know the form's not been the best recently, but they should very much feel. You know, the fact is, they were on the run last season that Real Madrid are on at the moment in terms of not being able to lose. And you know, so, and it's all those players pretty much are still there and still capable of doing it. And we hope that the form is starting to turn now and things are starting to look up. So they shouldn't be going into it thinking to play for a point. They should just be thinking, let's try and reproduce a good level of performance. And if we do that, you give yourself every chance of winning the game.
Fingers crossed for this one. And I mean, there's two massive games, this and then City away on Sunday before another international break, which seems ridiculous. I suppose the international break, because now we've won against Villa, if these results don't go the way, is it good? Is it like risk killing momentum? Does it all depend how we view the international break, what happens in these next two?
Yeah, they're just undeniably massive, aren't they? I just think, you know, you kind of, if you go on a run like Liverpool had been, you put insane pressure on the fixtures that follow, and you need to get good results, but also see good performances. Now, you know, you've put yourself in a position where you're going into Real Madrid thinking you absolutely have to win and to feel good about yourself, or, you know, going to City away and the same. And it's like, but these are really tough fixtures. So, but I think, you know, Liverpool they just have to get that performance level back. And, you know, if they do that, I think everyone will be feeling, if you can get, I think, you know, beat Real Madrid and get a point at City or whatever, I think everybody would be delighted with that at this point. That they wouldn't be bad results before, but I think a couple of defeats back to back, and again, the kind of miseries there, the question marks over where, you know, where's this team going? Is it going to sort itself out? I don't think you can afford to lose both, that's for sure.
Does feel that way. And then obviously after the international break, we're still waiting for news, but you hope you get Curtis Jones, Frimpong, maybe Alisson, Isak back, and it could just look very different. We'll have to see. But there we go, people. I suppose the only other thing I wanted to check, 30:30, I think, isn't it, for Arne Slot on whatever player up at Anfield? Is that right for the press conference?
Yeah, 3:30 at Anfield, yeah. I'm not sure who the player is today, but I think that's the time for the presser, yeah.
Well, yeah, interesting to see if anything comes out of that. But 24 hours or so, a huge game at Anfield. Everyone will be ready for it. Someone will be getting roundly booed. Let's hope it's cheers at the end of this one. All it leaves me to say as ever is for the time, the insight, and for answering all the questions. David, it is as much appreciated as ever.
Oh, thanks for having me. Hope it's not me that's getting booed, by the way.
Yeah, I'd agree. And fingers crossed it is a good result. But Monday, the 3rd of November, that was a Media Matters for Anfield Index.